Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Janice, and I'm here with my good friend Courtney, and we are the Godless Moms doing the Godless Moms podcast, and we are um, happy to be coming to you from the unceded territory of the Syilx people in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia, Canada. See, I remembered Courtney. And today we're going to be talking about pride. I'm wearing my pride. I even have my necklaces on. Just a quick reminder, if you're joining us and chatting away in the comments, we would like you to just be mindful that most of the people in here are probably atheists. So that's pretty much who this is designed for, or it's a secular parenting podcast. So it's not the place to be proselytizing or sharing about your religious beliefs. And what else should I tell them, Courtney? I want people to pay attention to whatever we have written in the description below so they can find out more information about your organization and also about mine. I have a website and I work with people who are recovering from religion and religious trauma. So take a look at the information down below and find out about that.
Yeah, it should all be in the description. I also put the land acknowledgement down there too, so I remembered too.
Woo! Yay!
Yeah. So today we're talking about pride. So happy Pride, everybody.
Happy
For
Pride!
anybody who's joining us from the States or from other countries, it is not Pride Month in Canada. It is Pride Month in the US. And there's a good reason why there's different Pride months for Canada and the US. Did you know that, Janice?
I didn't even know that. I'm just ready to celebrate.
Well, we can definitely celebrate alongside our American friends online and stuff like that. There's not usually any events in June in Canada, but that is because Pride in the US is celebrated in June because that is when the Stonewall riots happened. And
yes.
Yeah. And so it's kind of an anniversary thing. It's that was the watershed moment for the LGBTQ plus movement in the US. For us, that was 1969 was the Stonewall riots. For us, it was in 1971 when there was a march on our parliament buildings in Ottawa when a bunch of LGBTQ plus community members all got together from Montreal and Ottawa and all the surrounding cities around there. And they marched on the parliament buildings there. So that's why, and that was in August. So that's why we celebrate our Pride in August.
Oh,
And
okay.
that year, it was the same day, Vancouver had 20 people show up at Robson Square.
Yeah. 20 people, not that many.
Yeah, times have changed a little bit. That's good news. But it's the Stonewall riots, if you don't know what they are, is in 1969 a police raid happened in the Stonewall Inn, which was a well-known gay bar I believe it was the West Village. I don't know. I don't know New York. So, but it was in a neighborhood that was predominantly members of the LGBTQ plus community. And they were used to getting their bars raided like this. And I think it was 9 cops came in really early in the morning on June 28th. And they started trying to arrest people. They would arrest people in New York for I made a note of it, for not wearing gender specific clothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they would grill women in these bars, like lesbians in this bar, asking them if they were wearing 3 of the 3 feminine garments that were basically necessary to be let go. And They were obviously bras, panties, and I don't know what the third one was.
I bet it was pantyhose. It was something stupid like pantyhose.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they would actually be arrested for not wearing gender-specific clothing.
That is that's hard to even believe. That is crazy.
An interesting fact, though, is that the Stonewall Inn was owned by the mafia, and the mafia paid off the police to keep them out of there, to stop them from raiding this place as much as possible. Obviously, it wasn't foolproof, but they did that, and in exchange, they upped the prices, like they gouged their customers, because they knew that if the customers didn't want to pay those prices, they would have to face the raids constantly. And the other thing that the mafia did in there was they would blackmail their wealthier customers. And they would say, if they recognized somebody, they knew they were powerful and had money, they would say, give us, $200 and we're not gonna tell your family that you're here, and
sounds like gangsters, all right.
Yeah, so it was a bad scene all around for the LGBTQ plus community, not to mention the fact that out in the community they would face harassment, violence, and all of that stuff.
So then what happened on that early morning when the police raided it that led to the riots?
They just had enough. They were just like, fuck this. We are not putting up with this again. And they started rioting, and they forced the police, those police officers, to barricade themselves in the inn. And then they set the inn on fire. Luckily, the police escaped, or not luckily, some people might say, but I'm glad they escaped. They rioted until July 1st. They just kept rioting and rioting and rioting, and they just had enough. They'd been there. They were done with being treated like second-class citizens. And so it was the next year. It was the following year that the first gay pride march happened, although I believe it was called something else. I think it was called Gay or Christopher Street something, because this was all happening on Christopher Street.
Okay.
And you'll be happy to know that the person who was behind most of the organization of this very first Pride event was a bi woman named Brenda Howard, and it's weird because she's often not mentioned in the stuff that, at least the stuff that I was reading in preparation for this.
Well, thank you for mentioning her. Way to represent.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, it happened every month after that. At the time, though, 49 states, it was illegal to be gay. It was, the charge would be sodomy.
Yeah, same with Canada. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was illegal. And oddly enough, Illinois was the only state who had turned that over in like the year prior, or 2 years prior, I believe. So
very interesting. So forward thinking of Illinois.
Yeah. And then in Canada, it was a year after the first Pride in the States that Canadians decided to do their first march in Ottawa, and that's where it started for Canada. So yeah,
wow.
that's the history of Pride, and that's why Americans celebrate it in June and we celebrate it in August.
I say we should just celebrate it the whole way through.
That's called New Orleans.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly. And I see Molly had some comments for us. Black trans women threw bricks at cops for LGBTQ rights. And she also says, my home state of Illinois. Very cool.
Yep.
That's a good place to be from then, I think, on that occasion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I grew up very religious, and then I became even more religious after I got married. But I certainly knew by the time I was about 12 that I was attracted to men and women. But I also certainly was never, it never crossed my mind to tell anyone that or express that or explore that. And, got married and was faithful to my husband for a lot of years there. But eventually, near the end of the marriage, when I was also deconstructing from my religion, that is when I thought, okay, I've got to tell him this. I've got to let him know that I'm bisexual. And so I was prepared. It was going to be this big conversation. I knew it was going to be like such a shock for him. And I still laugh now when I think about it, because he's like, do you think I'm surprised? I've been married to you for almost 20 years. I think it's a surprise to me that you're telling me that you're attracted to women. I think I picked up on that over the years. So I didn't hide that as well as I thought I did. But I wasn't really free to start exploring that aspect of my personhood until I had started deconstructing from Christianity. And also, till our marriage was coming to an end. So, and even then, I very much kept it under wraps. So I started, Plenty of Fish account. I had one for men, one for women, and but I was so nervous about it. Felt nervous about people, finding this out about me or sharing this. I still had kids that were living at home at the time. So I wanted to be discreet and respectful. I mean, it was enough of a shock for my kids. I felt that I was completely disregarding all the religious training that I had worked so hard to force them into. So this, I felt, would be one more thing that would just be such a shock to them. I started exploring that aspect of myself, really enjoyed it. So sometimes I'm in relationships with men. Sometimes I'm in relationships with women, and I like being able to be who I am. And I want to offer that space to everyone else to be who they are. And they don't have to make excuses, and they don't have to pretend. And certainly it was my religious training and religious upbringing, and the Bible having verses condemning homosexuality, except of course Jesus didn't actually say anything in the Bible about it, but the other players did. So there is a lot of pressure in the Christian community, if you are gay or if you don't fit that hetero mold, that you can't be yourself. And that's really sad. And so now there are actually a number of churches that have become a lot more, they refer to themselves as progressive, LGBTQ affirming. And so while I don't have anything good to say about religion, I do have good things to say about people that want to include and affirm other people. So that's kind of my story about it. And yeah, I've only ever been to one pride event in our town, like medium small town in Canada. 2019, I went by myself. And there were tents and everything set up, and it was my first time ever attending anything related to Pride. Previous years I would have protested or railed against it, written letters to the newspaper. The gays are trying to take over. It's the gay agenda, that whole thing. Well, now I know the gay agenda is just brunch, so it's not actually that big of a deal. But it was interesting when I went by myself to this Pride event a few years ago, and I just was very tearful. I saw people just loving other people and extending kindness to other people. And they weren't the horrible people, of course, that they had been made out to be. And I was still just coming to grips with myself being part of the community. So here I am.
So, growing up, what did the religious people around you think of the Pride
Well,
event?
well, there weren't certainly in Kelowna there were no pride events when I was growing up, and my parents would, my father in particular, really tried to keep us from watching anything or having any exposure to anything that would talk about homosexuality. Like he didn't like it if we watched Three's Company because Jack Tripper would pretend to be gay in order to live there. We weren't allowed to watch this hilarious show called Soap because there was because Billy Crystal played a gay fellow in there, if I remember correctly. That's going back quite a ways. But so anything, any TV shows where it could potentially come up as a theme, you know, we're off limits. And I was far more restrictive than that with my children. Like we didn't even have TV; they just got to watch Veggie Tales and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, eventually, I did have a discussion with my kids, you know, and let them know that this is how I am, and they did not bat an eye. They did not
Yeah.
care. They're like,
No.
"Be you, mom. Be you." So I'm being me. And I love that about our children's generation. I know mine are a little bit
Yeah.
older than yours, but just the fact that they don't care. They want people to be happy and to be
Yeah.
free and to live the lives that they choose to live. And that is so glorious.
I find too that a lot of the kids, like at least my daughter's age, because she's bisexual, and she like I just find that they don't even define themselves. They're just free to date whoever they're attracted to at the time, and it's just not even like she. We found out because she started dating a girl, right? And it was just like this normal thing, and we certainly treated it as a totally normal thing in our house because that's just how we run our house. But it's just like the kids, it's just not even a topic to talk about. It's just not even a thing. It's just so normal. I love the fact that it's getting to the point where people who belong to the rainbow don't have to have this big coming out moment because it's such a like who you're attracted to, who you sleep with is such a private thing. It's not like it's always bothered me that people who are in the LGBTQ plus community have to have like this coming out moment. Like I didn't have to come out as straight, and it's just like it should just be normal. If I
And
believe I wrote it in a blog post once where I just said, if my son Joey comes home with a boyfriend one day, I'm going to act exactly the same way as I would if he brought home a girlfriend.
mhm, yeah, just to be happy for him that he's found someone, you know, kind and trustworthy and all those other things, that the gender part of it really is inconsequential. I wish more families were like you and thought that way and treated their kids that way. It's so unfortunate and traumatizing when young people do, you know, come out to their parents and they're met with disdain. They're thrown out into the street. They have finances withheld, whatever, or they get forced into conversion therapy, awful conversion therapy to try and pray the gay away. It's just distressing. And
It's
it's
devastating.
horrifying. Yeah, and it's so completely unnecessary and not like it does any good at all. So we really need to come around and support young people who are going through that, who are coming out or have come out to their families and are struggling in this way. They need to know that's not the whole world. That's your family, unfortunately, but there are people who will just love and support you regardless.
Yeah, it always makes me so sad to hear, and I get a lot of emails from people telling me about their experiences with their religious family and stuff like that, and it always makes me so sad. Like I just am overcome with this need to just like wrap my arms around them and just come live here. Like, I just want to collect them all and move them into my house, you know, because at least here they'll be accepted and loved. But obviously that's not something that I could do, but it's just like, those are the thoughts that go through my head. It's hard. It's like watching a child be abused. That's exactly what it is. If you were watching some YouTube video that went viral of a child being abused, it's just so heartbreaking, especially as a mother. Like, I just can't ever imagine my son or my daughter being in that situation, and it just hurts. It hurts so much.
Yeah, it's distressing for sure. And it took me quite a while to get to get very comfortable with I'm okay this way, I'm okay that way, I'm okay any way that I am. And there's definitely drama within the gay and bisexual and trans community, just like there is in the the hetero community. There's drama everywhere you go, because people are people, and people come with a lot of drama sometimes. And so when, sometimes people are under the illusion that, oh, if I can just go and be in that community, my relationships will be so much better. Not necessarily. I wish that were the case, but it's still up to you to be careful with whom you choose to associate and tell your secrets to, and this sort of thing. But there is something to be said for the freedom that comes with not caring, of being able to be yourself in any given situation. So it's no longer, I don't have a fear that people are going to find out that I like women and they're going to blast it on social media to try and embarrass me. You cannot blackmail me with this stuff, because I know who I am and I know what I've done. And sometimes in my life, I've done things I'm not proud of, and I've apologized and tried to make amends for those things. But this is not one of those things. This is something that really should be besides the fact, shouldn't matter to anybody. They should just see me as Janice, know me as Janice.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when people think about that stuff. Like, just never. When my friend growing up, my best friend growing up, came out to me, my reaction was total surprise, despite the fact that everybody else was not shocked at all. My reaction was total surprise, because I had just never thought about it, because it's not my fucking business. Like, I just don't. All I ever cared about with her was if she was happy and safe and being treated the way she deserved to be treated. And it was weird. Like, she told me on the phone that I was the first person who didn't say that I knew it, right? I honestly, I do not think about it. I just don't think about what other people are doing behind closed doors. I don't think about who they're attracted to and who they love and stuff like that. I never have, and I don't really know why, because it seems like it's something that a lot of other people do. Like, it's just so weird to me.
I think the worst response I got was when I told a friend, a female friend, and we had both been religious together, and then our marriages were ending, and I was farther along on the deconversion journey than she was, and in fact now she's gone right back into it all. But at any rate, when I told her that my marriage was over and that I was looking at dating women, she immediately said, well, I'm not interested in any of that, as if I was interested in
oh my God.
It was I kind of felt like it was a slap in the face. It was offensive to me that she would respond that way, but you know what, when you tell people something that they don't know, it may be shocking to them, and we don't always respond the best when we've had a shock. So we really can't hold that against people. But I'll tell you, don't react that way. If someone comes up to you, don't react that way.
No, when I was surprised about my friend, I was like immediately just like, oh my God, like you're gonna be so much happier. And I'm like, this is gonna be amazing. We're gonna go to a gay bar. And so it was good, but it's funny because I've seen some people react that way to other people coming out, and it's so like do people not understand what they're saying when they say that? Like they're basically saying like, you can't resist me.
That's right. How will you resist my charms? That's exactly right.
It's like they don't understand it. It works exactly the same way as it does with straight people. You're not attracted to everybody. It's just I've never understood that logic.
And then so some when I've been in a relationship with some men and have disclosed to them that I'm attracted to both, some of them have been extremely turned on by it, very excited by it, like more than a little encouraging. And then some have just had very little to say. Like it also can depend on the type of relationship that it is and what you're both consenting to and agreeing to in the relationship. I was in a relationship that was quite open, and we enjoyed doing a lot of things with a lot of people, sometimes together, sometimes not together. And then I've been in more relationships that have been monogamous. It's just the two of us. Yeah, so it really depends on the person, depends on the couple. I like my life. I like my sex life. I have a good life. I like who I am. I like the people that I have in my life. It's a good life.
Yeah. Well, I think people like you. I know I do.
Ah, yay! Thank you.
So something else that I kind of wanted to touch on in this is why we need pride, because I know that you've probably heard people say this before. But of course you have like the straight people who feel left out and they have to have their own parade, and they don't understand why you need to have a parade. Like, why do you need to quote unquote flaunt it? And you know what's really sad is that I also see members of the LGBTQ plus community, like on TikTok and stuff like that. I've seen some TikToks of them saying that oh, I'm gay, but I don't support the whole pride thing because there's no reason for you to flaunt it and put it out there. And I'm just like, it makes me really mad because there is absolutely a reason, and that reason does not apply to straight people. It's so ridiculous that I can't help but laugh at the idea of a straight pride parade. But the reason why you have pride is because for so long you couldn't be who you were out in the open without facing serious repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
Either you could be imprisoned back when Stonewall happened, and you can, to this day, you can still be disowned, you can face harassment, you can face violence, you can be mistreated by people who you love and trust. So it's still something that people have to show that they feel pride about it to normalize it. It's about being out there and showing everybody that being gay, being a lesbian, it's all okay, and that you're not going to put up with what happened before. It's a celebration of being able to do this now. And when I mean, it was 50 years ago. That happened 50 years ago. And when you think about the length of human history, how long the LGBTQ plus community has been suffering, it doesn't come close to anything that straight people suffer. I mean, we have bad relationships. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's.
I saw an article recently that in Hungary, the government there, so they have, their government is very pro-Christian, and so they recently enacted a law making it illegal to discuss homosexuality or anything related to LGBTQ plus with anyone under 18. stiff penalties for anyone who would do that. So the Christians think that's just fantastic, but it is a massive step backwards and frankly quite terrifying for anyone in the LGBTQ community or any of their allies, loved ones, supporters. And we actually see this happening in different countries around the world. I know someone wrote to me and said that in Gaza, being gay is punishable by 10 years in prison. It's so ridiculous. And there is a persistent, malignant confusion, like a purposeful, very bad, trying to confuse pedophilia with homosexuality. And the two are absolutely different. They're absolutely different. And it's very important if we hear someone conflating those two that we right away set them straight. And that is just a huge part of why I think homosexuality gets such a bad rap and is so feared by people who really don't understand it. It's very much a fear-based. When you look at Christianity, their reactions to things are very much fear-based, including homosexuality.
Yeah, it's funny because I have always wanted to go to sorry, I just had to block somebody spamming our chat.
That is. Someone's weird. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to the Maldives since I was younger, because my parents took us traveling everywhere, and it was always to tropical islands, and so the Maldives was one that I hadn't been to, and I wanted to go because the pictures of the Maldives it's just beautiful, and and then I learned how they are towards the LGBTQ plus community and non-religious people in the Maldives. So no longer will I go there. I'm not going to give them my money. They can suck it. I'll go to Fiji instead.
Know that. So they're not supporters at all. They're persecutors of the community.
They are very fundamentalist Muslim there. Yeah, it's actually like women there aren't even allowed to wear bikinis. Like you are as a tourist in the resort, but you can't leave the resort in your bikini, and just stuff like that. Like it's crazy over there. I won't go there.
No interest in going to any Muslim country, essentially, because they do not have appropriate attitudes towards women or to the LGBTQ community. That's for sure.
I've been to a few Muslim countries.
Did you ever go by yourself?
No, I did not. I went with my parents. We went to Indonesia and then we went to Malaysia. But in Malaysia, you couldn't really tell. We were in a resort, and then when you left the resort, it was all jungle. So you couldn't really tell. In Indonesia, we were on Bali, so it was mostly Hindu there. So it was good, fun.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking a look at Nathan's comment here. He says, we straight heterosexuals need pride simply because it erodes sexual barriers of all relationships. There are sexual connections that some couples will readily dismiss simply in fear of being perceived as gay when not. Pride is good for all relationships as a means of improving intimacy, honesty, and openness between all partners. Hear, hear, Nathan. Very nicely said, and so true.
Although
sorry,
I disagree that straight people need a pride celebration. I just don't think we do. There's,
my taking of that was that we need the gay pride celebration, even as straight people, as heterosexual
Oh,
people.
yes,
We need
yes.
to be encouraging
Yes.
that. Yeah, that's how I
right.
took that comment.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he is not saying straight pride, no.
It's been a long day, Janice.
It has.
No, I totally agree. When my friend came out, when we went to celebrate her at Pride several times, and we would go to gay bars and stuff like that, but we would, as a group, sometimes with her, sometimes just with my straight friends, as a group, we would go every year to the Vancouver Pride, and I just love it. I love it. Like I like seeing men's asses. I enjoy
You're not
it.
going to complain about that. So then, what are your thoughts on people taking children to Pride events?
Oh, I would take my kids in a heartbeat. I have not taken them because we live in this small town, and you live in the closest big city, which is an hour away.
Yeah.
And the Pride celebration in Kelowna, I understand, is not very big. So so we haven't taken our little one. He's not very little anymore, but he's the littler of the two. We haven't taken him. I believe that Abby has been with friends or family or her mom, maybe. But I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, take them. Even when they were toddlers, I would totally have taken them. No problem. And if they saw a butt, I'd be like, yeah, we all have them.
It's a butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a number of years back when people were starting to talk about, should drag queens be allowed to read at story time at the library, read to the children? And I remember really feeling conflicted about that. I didn't just leave my religion and do a total 180. It's been, picking apart my conditioning for years and years and years. And so sometimes I would still have conflicting thoughts and conflicting feelings about it. And I thought, well, I don't know, do we want to expose children from a young age to this? But the fact of the matter is, the world is made up of all different kinds of people. They are everywhere. Some blend more in the background, some don't. Do you want to foster an attitude with your children of acceptance, of accepting other people? Then expose them to the reality. You can do it in age appropriate ways. There are books, age appropriate books for children. I actually only went to my very first drag show probably in 2019 in San Francisco, and it was phenomenal. I was gobsmacked. I was hooked. I was hooked from then on. I could not believe it. They were prettier than me, extremely talented, some of them, and it just was such a fun atmosphere. And at first I was a little nervous because people seem to be throwing something on stage, like these wadded up garbage on stage, and I'm like, no, that's money. People are crumpling up their money. But I had never seen that before. But oh gosh, that was really fun. I look forward to going again.
That drag shows are like a celebration of humanity. It's just so beautiful, and man, they are good at makeup. Like I watch the drag makeup channels probably more often than I watch regular makeup channels, but I would take my kids to a drag show, depending on what rating the drag show has. But for sure. And I would absolutely have let them go to the library and have a drag queen read to them. I've just never been able to wrap my mind around what the problem is with that. It's just clothing. And it's funny because also, if you watch TikTok, you notice there's a lot of, or even like memes going around Facebook and stuff like that. You'll notice that there's a lot of men who like totally hetero men who will wear women's clothing now to some degree. And it's just, gender is just becoming a little bit more fluid, and as far as clothing goes, gender norms are being done away with. And I don't know if you saw that man. I believe he's in Germany. He wears mini skirts and stilettos to work, and he is a straight man, and
Oh,
he wears mini
wow.
skirts, and he has the most gorgeous legs.
Oh,
Just
wow.
beautiful
Cool.
legs. But this is the sort of thing that's going on right now. Is just like, clothes are for people, you know? Any kind of clothes is for any kind of, it's just fabric. Like, that's all it is. And to just have so much tied up in how this fabric is styled and sewn together is just, it's crazy to me. It's so weird. I've never been able to understand why people have such a problem with it. I just don't understand it.
Well, in the Old Testament of the Bible, they actually had verses saying that you could not mix fabrics. Like, you couldn't have a cotton and a wool together, or whatever it was. That was a sin. You are not allowed to do that. So, yeah, religion does seem to be an awful lot about control. And I have to say, my friend, your lack of religious baggage is so refreshing. Oh my God. It's so astounding. It's one reason I love spending time with you, just because, you do not have the baggage. And you really mean it. It's, you don't have an issue with these things. And I think, dang, that's such a beautiful way to raise a child.
That's how I was raised. My parents just, I mean, my dad fought for, like, actually fought in court systems and, out there on the street for all kinds of people, no matter what they looked like, no matter what their sexual orientation was or what they identified as. He didn't care. He never cared. Nothing ever made him say, no, I won't help you. And that's how I was raised. I watched my dad run out at 3:00 in the morning at night after being paged to go and rescue a sex worker who's been beaten up on the street.
Mm.
He just loved everybody. And he still does. There's nobody he doesn't like. And sometimes it drives me crazy because I have to spend time around conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
society's definitely come a long way from what it was, and hopefully we continue evolving. We really don't need religion. We don't need someone else putting rules on us. It's horrifying to me looking at blasphemy laws, and in countries, particularly Muslim countries, but America certainly, there's a portion of America trying to move towards theocracy, absolutely. And if that's the place, then it'll be Christian rule. And don't think it can't happen, because it definitely can happen. So we really must ensure that we do not give even 1 inch to religious bullies. We can't. We can't.
Yeah, and it's getting scarier these days, I think. Even though we've finally done with Trump, for now, hopefully for good. But it still feels off. Feels like something has broken recently.
Yeah. We're not safe. I mean, if someone with Trump's bad attitudes, but someone who's smarter, if they come along, they can just wreak terrible havoc. So we need to be supporting our friends in the United States right now and really encouraging them to speak out against religious bullying and people trying to tell them how to live their lives, because it's nobody else's fucking business how you live your life. That's the truth.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if there's going to be any Pride events in Vancouver this year.
I hope so. There just might be. I think we're on top of the vaccinations enough, actually, that by August that might be, but they still might be nervous about numbers. Like, I would assume thousands of people show up in Vancouver. Toronto, of course, would be huge, just a massive amount of people.
Yeah, I'd love to go in Toronto. That's where my friend lives now. I think it probably is going to be canceled. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of virtual Pride in Vancouver this year, because it's just like, even if things are looking good now, it's too late to start planning it, I think, because it's massive. It's
That's
massive
right.
in
It would
Vancouver.
take a lot.
Yeah.
To get that going. Yes, that's definitely on my list that I would like to attend in Vancouver and possibly Toronto. Their Pride events there. The parade in particular, I think I'd like to see. So
It's fun. It's so fun. It's just so, it's so, I don't know. I felt the same way when I was in a gay bar. It's just so, even as a straight person, I felt more free to be myself in a gay bar or at a gay pride event. I don't know. It's just like when you're in a regular bar, you feel a little bit more uptight for so many reasons, especially as a woman, like being approached by men, or, like how you look, like fussing about your hair in the bathroom and reapplying lipstick. That all just goes out of the window in a gay bar, and you just don't care. It's just, there's no anxiety. There's no,
hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's way more fun. I'm not a big bar person. I told you before we started, I don't really like crowds, but I love Pride and I love going to gay bars. I just feel totally relaxed in those places. So.
I have a very gay friend that I love very much. We grew up together, and in his own words, he is as gay as a garden party. That's how he refers to himself. And he doesn't live here. He's moved away to the United Kingdom. But I find that I am definitely drawn to strongly gay people, or their identity is strong, and same with trans people. And I was thinking, what is it, that makes me want to spend time, like that I'm drawn to these folks? And I think it is the degree of courage shown by people who are unapologetically themselves. I mean, society's come a long way, but still, there is still obviously some negative attitudes out there towards trans people, towards gay people. So to be in the company of people who just live their lives anyway, and they don't really give a care, I'm like vicariously grabbing onto that strength and that courage.
Yes.
I have such admiration for people who are just living their lives. It's a beautiful thing.
I've thought of that. I've had that exact thought process. Like, why do I feel more comfortable with gay people or with trans people? Why do I want to be around them? And I think it's a similar thing. It's just that they have done so much inward work to sort out who they are, and they know exactly who they are. And you don't, like, when you're around straight people, you're around a lot of people that are just like putting on a whole bunch of airs, and like, like, it's just, they haven't done that work on themselves to figure out who they truly are. And so I just find that being around, for the most part, obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, I just find that they are so, they know who they are so well, and there's no pretense. There's no, it's just easy. It's so much easier to just be with somebody who's just going to tell it like it is and not worry about who's going to freak out about it. Just tell it like it is. It's so much easier to have a relationship with somebody who isn't beating around the bush and telling lies and all this stuff, which I find straight people do all the time. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel I feel safer. I feel like, and I also get the strong feeling that I can be myself freely. Because there's so many situations where you're editing yourself, and you're maybe you're not saying this, you're not saying that, and I just feel like I don't have to do that around people like that. I can just be myself. I can swear as much as I fucking want.
You can indeed. Yeah. And, it's even within the LGBTQ two-spirit IA plus community, all the alphabet letters in there. Even within that community, there can be, I've certainly heard from gay people that bi people don't really belong there on the rainbow. And I disagree. And, part of me, and I can't say whether it's true or not, but I tend to think that really it is just a spectrum, and it's people can be over here, they can move over here, some of us are very fluid. And so I'm attracted to women, I'm attracted to men. Age also is not a barrier to me. I've been with someone a dozen years younger and with someone over 20 years older right now. So I really love the person, fall in love very much with the person, rather than kind of the barriers that are that society would put around them that would say that's off limits. So to each their own.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I think that it's absolutely a spectrum. I don't think it's as simple as black and white. I think that, you can't help who you love when you meet them and you fall in love with somebody. You can't help it. It's just it is what it is, and like if it doesn't fit neatly into the label that you've given yourself, then like why bother with the label? It's I understand like using the labels are important because we have to normalize it. But I think that everybody is on a different place on the spectrum for sure. Even us straight people, I think there's, we vary on where we are on the spectrum too. So I think it's definitely, that's a good point for sure.
I have noticed also, coming out of a strongly Christian background, it seems to me a lot of times that the people, the men in particular, who rail the most against it are the ones who feel the least secure in their own sexuality, or they are often hiding something. Not all the time, but certainly a lot of time. And we've seen it with different televangelists who were caught, having a torrid affair with a male sex worker. And they really wanted, obviously, to keep it out of the news, but the news found out. And the sad, awful thing about that, Ben, is the shame. Like, what you shouldn't have to feel shame about sex, about who you enjoy being with. There should be no shame involved in that at all. But if you're forcing yourself into that religious mold, then there definitely is a lot of shame that goes along with it, and shame is just toxic.
That makes me. It's always made me furious. Just the fact that people feel shame for just being totally normal people, and I absolutely think that it's abusive. Even if it's an adult that you're shaming, it's absolutely abuse. It is psychological abuse to shame people for just being normal human beings, and I don't tolerate that around here.
Never. There are so many more important things, important qualities about people that we can focus on. Like, why get stuck on one thing, on sexuality? I don't know. I hope and believe that we will continue to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point to end on, because we are about 5 minutes off from an hour, so I think we can end it on that.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. This was fun. It was interesting. I love chatting with you. You're my pal.
Yeah. Soon we have to do it in person soon. And we could have drinks, even though I'm not drinking anymore. I will for that occasion.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we got to try out that new incredible sectional that your hubby built out there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great. I was working till like dusk last night out there on my computer.
Well done.
It was fun. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we will see you next week at Thursday at 4. Right, Janice?
You know what? We're trying out some different dates and times because we found the weekend wasn't working. It was just not working. But so, I mean, if you have suggestions, you can give us your suggestions for a date and time. But yeah, we'll just have to figure it out as we go along. For now, we can say next Thursday at 4 again and see who can join us.
Okay. We will
All
see
right.
you next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.